thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on what they love about Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have my guest, Miss Ileana, with us today. Ileana, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is a nice treat for sure.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. And oh my gosh, I just want to make sure we point out really quick before we really get into it is like she has the most beautiful background I've ever seen in my entire life. That studio is insane. Like I think everyone can tell by now, like if they take one look at my page, pink is definitely my favorite color. Like I'm not repping it right now, but yeah, exactly. Like you look at one YouTube video of mine and you're like, I think she likes pink. So this is like
And I got pink chandeliers for you. I have it all.
oh
So,
my
we just keep adding. Everybody asks, like, where do you get all this pink?
there's a lot of pink. It's
Yeah.
so easy to find pink stuff. I cannot legally show my bed because I just no one's gonna like that. But like,
Oh,
everything in my room, everything but this background is literally pink. So anyway, that's a sidebar. I just get excited really quickly. But Ileana and I know each other through our local BNI chapter. And of course, she has like the best business of all time. So I was like, come on the podcast, let's talk about it. I'm excited. So I'll let her kick off to begin with and just tell me a little bit about your story coming here to Flagler, to Palm Coast, and how has that been for you?
it's been really exciting. It definitely was something that I was not planning necessarily. And then my husband and I met. He's kind of what brought me to Palm Coast. He's guilty as charged, but with the promise of him coming my way, and then it ended up being backwards. But I have to say, things happen for a reason. I'm a firm believer that you're sort of placed in situations that are, you just have to find your way, and eventually you're like, okay, well, this made sense. This was meant to be. And during the process, he was very, because obviously it's a little nerve wracking having to start from scratch, whether it's work, personal relations, sorts of things. My daughter, obviously, that we're a full package when we met, with my husband now. Anyways, it's one of those where you're like, oh God, I'm taking her away from my
Mm.
loved ones, from what she's used to. So that was also something to keep in mind of, what's going to happen. Is it going to be positive? But I have to say, it's been one of the best decisions for sure.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I'm so happy. And how long have you been here? It's not that long, is what you told me.
No, it'll be 2 years, the end of May.
Okay, so like same to me. I'm coming up on 2 years like next week.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years. So nice. I don't feel so alone.
Oh
And that's
no.
one thing that
Yeah.
surprises me, and not so much anymore because I hear it so much, but there's so many people moving to the area. It's definitely getting out there, which can be, a good, for sure, business wise. But
Yeah.
secrets. So yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, obviously, I just passed 100 episodes, right? So I talked to 100 businesses in the area. Oh, thank you so much. But a part of that is you just learned there are so many different walks of life in Palm Coast. Like John Gilvary was telling me he's been here since 2002. You've been here for 2 years. There was another person I know who's been here like 7 months. And it's like you just learn so much, especially in our BNI chapter too. I felt like that coming into our BNI chapter when I joined, there was like 60 or 68 members, right? Now we're close to 80, which is insane. But when I joined, I was like, oh my gosh, it seems like everyone's been in business for so long. They've been here for so long. Everyone knows each other. I'm like this outsider. No one knows me. But then I started talking to them and they're like, well, I've only been in business a year. Or I've only been in Palm Coast 2.5 years. And I'm like, oh, okay, like there are other people like me, and that made me feel so much more comfortable to join BNI, like, and that's how we met. So it's just really that thing. It's like you think you're on the outside, but then you just have a few conversations. You're like, okay, I think I can belong here. So that's a really great feeling. Um, yeah, well, let's talk about like your beautiful, beautiful studio behind you. I'd love for you to share a little bit about, how did you get into doing nails? Like, where did that start? And then of course, starting to now have your own business here.
So that actually started way back when. My whole journey began in 2004, more or less. My family and I moved overseas. We were in Italy at the time. Yeah, so right after high school, my sister and I are about a year and a half apart or so. So once she finished high school, she's a little bit younger than I am. My parents were like, all right, this is the best opportunity. My father's from there. So we took a chance, packed it up, and we made the big move. And I had already pretty much expressed my love for makeup. I mean, you name it, beauty related. It was what I did with, friends that came over, we practiced certain things or did eyebrows, and I got in trouble for plugging their eyebrows, things, things like that growing up. But my parents were really supportive. They're like, all right, if you're going to do this, find the best school, like, definitely look around, research before you commit to anything. And I was very, very lucky to enter the Gina Paravisi Scuola per l'Estetica. This is in Rome, Italy.
Wow.
So it was a 3-year program. It's a little bit longer there than here in the States, a bit more complete in the sense that you sort of do everything in one course. You have the 3rd year, which is an option for those that eventually want to open up their own studios. So there's some other business aspects that they kind of throw in there and such, but from massage to facials, nails, you name it, we do it from the face down, no hair. So it all started there. I finally graduated in 2007, and ever since, I have to say that it's been an ongoing journey of branding. Like, I think that that's been my biggest thing, because I have such passion for what I do. And, from day one, I think the logos have changed, the names have changed a little bit, but I believed in myself so much. I feel like, the power of the mind is huge. You have to set yourself goals. And although I didn't think it would happen so quick, or that it would happen this way, it's definitely led me here. So,
Mm-hmm.
here we are. Ever since, finishing school, I was lucky enough to work for people, have my own, kind of studio there. But coming back to the States has definitely been a different learning experience, whether it's, obviously, like, making sure that all licenses are in place here, but also learning the ropes. And I think that's very
Mm.
important, as to, like, okay, well, how do salons do it here? What are the things that happen in the background? And I think that although I have my own philosophy and things that I definitely take pride in what I do here, you still have to take a little bit of all the positives you can from the entire journey.
Sure.
So kind of everything that has led to this point. So I definitely thank my ex bosses here and there, you know what I mean? Like, just for
Yeah.
experience. I think you can never say, I'm going to finish school and I'm going to open up something right away. You have to take the time to learn
Yeah.
about other people's mistakes and not mistakes. Some people do
Yeah.
really great things that you have to be humble enough to, acknowledge and take into account, for sure.
Yeah, like you definitely mentioned at the beginning how like every like timing is really important and everything happens for a reason. And I think, you have that kind of buffer time. Like I know I had a buffer time as well of like 2 years where I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna like the day I get out of high school, like I'm just running for it. And it's like, no, I needed to like look back and be like, okay, this how happened for a reason. I needed to take my time and ease into it. Because like I can't imagine doing what I'm doing now at like 18, right? And I don't think I was in that mindset. I don't think I was ready for that. And I'm glad it happened. Like it was bad. I felt bad when I was there, but now I'm looking back, I'm like, thank God.
For sure.
I think that was definitely necessary. So I'm really glad you highlighted that. And then, really quick sidebar, because I think this is obviously very interesting. What are some of the differences that you've noticed with maybe like how you run the business or like maybe the customers from like Italy and the States?
Well, I mean, running the customers, I feel customer service is everywhere. I have to say that.
Mm,
You learn that from day one, and I've always made myself, what some people might say, even too much available, if there's such a thing.
yeah.
Really, again, it's about, do I want to grow this and, become successful in what I do? Do I want to share with the world the knowledge that I have? I mean, to this day, I quote my teachers, I just, when I'm doing certain things, it's something that I'm very much like, oh my God, I can still remember the moment I was sitting in that classroom and she was going over, X, Y, and Z. So when you have that, when you're thinking those things and you're performing a service and it comes across, it becomes this whole magical thing. I'll be honest with you. It sounds so little, and we're doing nails, and people out there are like, oh, come on, it's maybe not that big of a deal. But I feel like when you're doing it right, and you're not doing it just because you earn money from it, or it's just work, um it becomes more special for sure.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
can't say necessarily that there's too much difference there. I do notice that, with certain things, I mean, with nails, it's grown so much here. I feel like some of the services where acrylic is not as popular in Europe, based on maybe sometimes smells and things like that. Like hard gel is really big. That's one thing that I've noticed. Like, that's a service that would be like a number one there. Coming to the States, it's starting to take off. It's been around, obviously, but I feel
Right.
like a lot more people are more aware of now. So I'll definitely be getting those phone calls. And it's nice to give the client the option. There's a
Mhm.
little bit for everybody. If you don't care for
Yes.
the UV lights, you have things that, don't require that. If you don't care for the monomer, then we can, steer you a different way. It's all about explaining to the client really, you know,
Yeah.
the options and what's going to be better for their nails. What fits with the lifestyle? What are you doing?
Hmm.
Do you garden? Do you, are you really hard on your nails? Obviously a gel manicure works for some people, it may not work for everybody. So, you get the stronger, more durable.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad that you brought up that, there's so many different services that you can for nails. And I know it's a lot more like, I mean, I've never been very like I guess into a lot of these things as a child, but like as I've gotten older, I've got more interest in it. So maybe I don't have all the information that I know a lot of my other friends had, but I knew the differences vaguely here and there. But like for me, I love to bake. So I'm constantly washing my hands. So like certain nail polishes just don't work because it's, you don't want nail polish to like flake into your batter. That would be, I think that's like a
Yeah,
violation.
good. That's unfortunately, I'll say something like, we don't guarantee the nail polish outside the door, when it's
Right.
regular polish, but that's only because, it's not in any way, something bad that we're trying to put out there, but
Yeah.
we take care of you when you come back and you say it's chipped or anything like that. But nail polish, I mean, you wash your hands with warm water most of the time. None of us really care for that cold water coming out of the faucet, and that's going to help bubble up that polish off the nail quite easily, especially with the regular surfaces.
Hmm.
Maybe on top of acrylic, not so much, but still things can get dull with time. They don't look as shiny. If you go to the beach, salt water can corrode certain things. So, again, your toes may not be looking, super
Yeah.
the entire time. So those are things where I feel it's very important to, in this industry, and luckily here, be able to explain,
Yes.
what it is that you are offering, and again, listen to the client. I ask those questions because I can decide to put anything on your nails, and maybe it's not going to fit, your particular needs. And as a tech, I don't want to have to see you come back and say like, hey, this wasn't good for me. Or
Yeah.
sometimes you
Definitely.
hit a wall, sometimes you try to explain and people kind of make their minds up, but I'm always like,
Yeah.
okay, listen, let's try it, let's do it your way. If you think that, you want to give, food for, thought to what I've said, then, come back and we can revisit anything. So
Yeah. Well, I'm
luckily
so
it's been
glad.
really good. It's been really good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like sometimes you and your heart, as the expert, something is better than the other thing, but sometimes people just have to see for themselves. And that's okay as long as obviously this is nails, no actual harm probably will come to them
Correct.
or
I
anything
mean,
like
we're
that.
not
So it's
doing
like
brain
the
surgery.
worst, yeah, like the worst comes to worst, like they just might not like the color and it might chip
Exactly.
off a little bit sooner. And that's not a big deal. We can come back and like you said, you can work through it, you can fix it, you can find out. And I'm just so glad that's such a value. I've talked to so many businesses, and that's been here in Flagler, and they've all said that same thing, and that they just want to put the customers first. They want to listen to the customer. They ask the questions they know they need to ask, because sometimes if you just don't know anything about nails, you don't know where to start. None of these things might come to your mind, and that's okay because that's just not what you know, and that's totally fine. And that's why it's your job. To be like, hey, this is what I know, this is what you know. How can we bridge that gap to make it something helpful for you. So I'm so glad that you talked about all those things. And I really enjoyed our conversation today. So again, thank you so much for the time, for coming on, sharing your expertise. I had no idea you were trained in Italy. That is absolutely so cool. You have so much knowledge bringing over us to here in the States. So again, thank you so much for the
A
time.
lot of
So
it in. It's funny because my texts are like, Ileana, you never talk about, where you went to school or like this and that. It's not that one thing's better than the other. I think it's really just how you I don't know, I feel like you have to take pride in it. And
sure.
I got to, was lucky enough to go to school there, but whether I would have done it here. I just think like you have to be curious. Not always are you ready right after school. There's a lot of trial and error, and that's something that I've learned. Hey, maybe this works better. That's, this is a trick down the road. And that this is something very big, and I love to put it out there. It's you can't be jealous with what you do. I love
Mm.
that my techs can learn a piece from my book and a page from my book, and vice versa. If they come across something that they find that is better, there's different ways to get there, things like that. Like definitely trying to meet somewhere in the middle, and be
Yeah.
very transparent, because I feel it's taken me a long time to learn certain things, but if I can help one of them get there sooner, then why not?
Yeah.
So
I think having that open mindset and that growth mindset is always a good sign in any business owner. So I'm so glad that you talked about that. So
no
again,
matter
thank
you
you.
get through the door, it's always
Yeah.
great. I mean, as much as I love to sit everybody at my table, I love that, everybody is, they're not all here yet. They'll be coming in a few minutes, but they all have the knowledge and the power and the products, number one, that's big, that, you need to be able to perform certain things. But again,
Definitely.
I mean, a couple more.
No, you're so good. I love this topic like more than anything. So I'm so glad we were able to talk about it. I could learn some things. And thank you again so much for your time. This was a total blast. Again, like I said, I just love this. So I love this talk. So this was a huge treat for me as well. So thank you, Ileana, for your time. And to everyone listening, I really appreciate you as well. And I will see you next time. Bye.